Hello, 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 my darlings. Hello. Won't you join me for a while? If you like, you can stay and I will tell you what today's video is about. It's good to be here. I'm grateful to be here with you. With you. And with you. I hope everyone is doing well and that you've had a lovely day, or at least a decent one. I hope that you've smiled today and that you've been hugged by someone who it feels good to be hugged by. I hope that you ate something that you enjoyed and that satisfied you, that you'll be glad when you have again the next time. I hope that you had time to rest and recover from the stresses of the day, of which sometimes there are many. This is my YouTube channel, and we call it the ASMR experiment. And my name is Amy. Amy. A-F-Y. 3 letters in my name. 3 letters apiece. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1 is A. 2 is M. 3 is Y. So, together, they spell Amy. I am very glad that you're here. Today's video is about newspaper. I have a collection of newspaper here. Some are older, some are newer. Most, I think, are all local. find some things to look at in one of these. If there's one that sounds interesting. It's sort of like pretending that we no longer have resources like the internet or social media, which would also include the internet, so I guess not that either. And then these were one of the only things we had to send and share news with each other. So, I don't know how many of you read a newspaper, but this is the Omaha World Herald. Omaha World Herald. That is a town in the southeast corner of Nebraska. I shouldn't call it a town. It's quite large when you compare it to other towns the size of Lincoln and Omaha. They are considered metropolitan areas for us. This particular Omaha World Herald comes from March 5th, 2004. March 5th, 2004. I have a feeling there are a number of you that were not born yet in 2004. I also wonder if you've read newspapers in your lifetime, and if so, for what purpose did you read them? Newspapers have served incredibly important roles for us. Over the years, they've given us critical information. They've entertained us. They have helped support our economies. They have been politically inflammatory. They have made many mistakes, typographical errors, and other misreported facts that later they put in the next newspaper, the corrections. If someone reported something that was proven to be wrong, there is usually a little spot on the back of either the first page or something like that, where they post the corrections. They'll say, we're sorry about that, but we did find out that the price of gas by the 4th of July was actually meant to be the 4th of June. Something like that. Please accept our apologies. If you have questions, you can write to the general manager and they give some information about that. But anyway, I used to have a paper route when I was, third grade, I guess. Pretty little. And I remember having to get up in the dark and the cold and walk 2 blocks or 3 blocks to this apartment building where they would dump off these huge stacks of newspapers in bundles, and then they threw out with those newspapers some little plastic bags and rubber bands, and you had to sit on the floor in the lobby in your snowy, wet snow clothes and roll those newspapers up and put the rubber band around, and then slide them into the plastic bags, and do that however many times you needed to get the number of newspapers that you were assigned to deliver that day. We were also responsible for attempting to collect on subscriptions. If they were overdue, we were supposed to knock and say something. I mean, what 9-year-old is going to say, "Hey, Gladys, I've been told you're running behind on this subscription to your local paper. I'm just here to threaten you that if you keep it up, we're going to cut you off. So here's your paper, ma'am. Just wanted to let you know." Like, that's never going to happen. It didn't happen. But anyway, I made zilch on that job, and it was usually screwed up because the papers wouldn't show up, or they'd forget to drop off the rubber bands or something like that, chased by a dog. It was a bit more than I had bargained for, so I did not continue for terribly long past that summer and winter. That year, just too hard or something. I wasn't really into this extreme elements of weather, so just bowed out, decided to wait until a few years later to try employment again. So the Omaha World Herald, the Nebraska edition, Friday, March 5th, 2004. The front page of the paper is featuring a person pumping gas in their vehicle, and it says, "The price of gas could be sky high by the 4th of July." And it shows a chart with the average price per gallon for regular unleaded in the U.S. at the time was at $1.71. In Nebraska, the U.S. as a whole. In Iowa, it was $1.65, and Nebraska itself was $1.69. On the left side, they have some discussions on the legislative session that was going on, and our very infamous Ernie Chambers, who always has some way of stirring up excitement in the legislative sessions. It says here that the Speaker of the legislature delivered a fatal blow Thursday to a bill that would change the state's method of execution. State Senator Kurt Braun of Wahoo pulled Legislative Bill 526 off the agenda for the year, saying other issues are more critical to get done. The bill would change the method of execution from electric chair to lethal injection. Proponents say the change is needed because of the growing possibility that the electric chair will be ruled unconstitutional. but passing the change would require taking on State Senator Ernie Chambers of Omaha, the legislature's most ardent death penalty opponent. He has been tying the legislature in knots in his efforts to fight lethal injection. After reviewing information from a judiciary committee and looking at the agenda, After reviewing the information from the Judiciary Committee and looking at the agenda we have that covers everything from education to water, Brom said, I decided at this time we will be proceeding with the rest of the agenda, but not taking up lethal injection. He said the courts are unlikely to rule before the issue can come up next year. Chambers said he expected such an outcome because he doesn't believe the legislature would trade the rest of the session for lethal injection. I would have killed the session, and they knew it, he said. State Phil Erdman of Bayard, the sponsor of LB 526, warned that delaying could be dangerous. A court ruling would leave the state with a death penalty, but no means to carry it out. Well, what are you going to do about that? I mean, maybe it's a sign. I don't know. Let's see. Well, this is kind of there's an article that says paying for email may stamp out spammers. If the U.S. Postal Service delivered mail for free, our mailboxes would surely run it over with more credit card offers, sweepstakes entries, and supermarket flyers. That's why we get so much junk email. It's essentially free to send. So Microsoft Corporation Chairman Bill Gates, among others, is now suggesting that we start buying stamps for email. Many internet analysts worry that turning email into an economic commodity would undermine its value in democratizing communication. But let's start with the math. That's kind of a jump there. Let's start with the math. At perhaps a penny or less per item, email postage wouldn't significantly dent the pocketbooks of people who send only a few messages a day. Not so for spammers who will mail millions at a time. Postage proposals have been in limited discussion for years. A team at Microsoft Research has been at it since 2001, but Gates gave the idea lift in January at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. Details came last week as part of the Microsoft anti-spam strategy. And that's interesting. Oh, have a pastor, or did, he opened a place that helps poor people or homeless people with food and shelter and giving them resources and things. And this paper happens to have an article in it about when he was diagnosed with a fatal brain tumor and had 6 months to live. He spent his 6 months reaching as many people as possible to have them help and donate and do things to support the city mission. So he says he was starting to notice that he was slurring his words a couple of months ago, and he was 60 years old at the time. Pastor Bob said, "I was thinking it was a little stroke," he said. When the tumor showed up on an MRI, he said he was totally and completely floored. It was the worst possible news, and he cried. But he did not cry without hope. He has salvation and the sustaining power of Jesus. The tumor's location near an important speech center left Pastor Bob with tough choices, said his neurosurgeon. Surgery would probably give him a year to live, but would rob him of his ability to speak. But Pastor Bob decided instead on an option that would likely give him only 6 months. He chose chemotherapy and radiation, but a more normal life. He said, "As long as I can continue to speak, I will do anything possible." Dr. Bob headed for the open door. Dr. Bob was head of the Open Door mission from 1986 to 2000. During his tenure, the mission's annual budget grew from $100,000 in his early days to $2.8 million in cash contributions and more than $100 million in gifts in kind. He spearheaded the opening of Lydia House for homeless women and children in 1990 and added 4 apartments for transitional living in 1998. Dr. Bob left Omaha in 2000 to become a senior development officer of the Buffalo, New York City mission, where he had been director for 9 years before coming to Omaha. He accepted a job as a pastor of Faith Baptist Church in Pawnee City, Nebraska in June 2003, so he and his wife could move back to Nebraska and be closer to their children. Suzanne Timberlake had been in ill health for years. She had heart surgery February 11th, and an MRI revealed that Dr. Bob's brain tumor was there 9 days after his wife's surgery. "When it rains, it pours," he said. The The Open Door Mission's current president and chief executive officer said the staff is still in shock over Timberlake's diagnosis. The mission would not be the leader it is today in ministering to women, mothers, children, and families without Dr. Bob's leadership. His videos about open door programs are still in demand by churches and other organizations who support the mission. The mission's Phone a Story lines, which feature 38 stories for children that he wrote and recorded, receive hundreds of calls per week. He has a special soft spot for children, and he's giving, the director said. His children have all gathered in Omaha to be with their parents during this difficult time, and his oncologist, Dr. Silverbrook, said he is placing him in a clinical trial where he will receive the new anti-cancer drug Iresa. He has high hopes for the drug, even though it will come with bad side effects. And the chemotherapy began Thursday with radiation to start next week. For as long as they can, he will continue to do his life's work. And he wanted to please God in everything he did, particularly when he's knocking at the door. There was a big storm in Texas, Oklahoma. High winds and tornadoes, flood. This one. This article's at the top of section B. And it says, single-sex classes are not catching on. A few public schools in the Midlands had tried the idea and saw mixed results. Nebraska and Iowa public schools have never, or public officials never embraced single-sex education as a panacea for closing achievement gaps, they said. In fact, only a few schools in the Midlands have experimented with the concept and overall dropped the approach. They say new and more single-sex opportunities could be created under a U.S. Department of Education plan to expand school choice. It's not for everybody, said Nebraska Education Commissioner Doug Christensen. Well, Doug wasn't wrong. Single-sex classes in public schools have been allowed only in a few cases, such as gym classes involving contact sports. This is a change, or expected to change, under a new plan, federal enforcement of Title IX, the landmark anti-discrimination law. Students would have to continue to offer equal education opportunities for boys and girls, but not always in the same classrooms. All single-sex classes would be voluntary. Not everyone sees single-sex education as a good idea. Some say there's no way to have separate but equal classrooms. You think? I mean, wow. Even some proponents say single-sex education has limits in what it so one elementary school offered an all-girls 6th grade math class in early 1990. School officials made the class voluntary and maintained a co-ed version of the class to ease concerns about legal problems. That's just ridiculous, sorry, but I mean, really kind of crazy. What's gonna be the crazy thing? Look at these cell phones. They are very antique compared to what we have today. They're not flip. This one's a flip phone. So this phone right here that you see, this phone almost exactly. In fact, this was my first cell phone. That's what it looked like exactly. It had the flip top that flipped up and down, and then buttons and little tiny screen, and no keyboard. So you had to, if you wanted to send a message to someone with a text message, you had to use the number keys and like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, and push the numbers like 1, 2, or 3 times to select the letter that corresponds. And you had to do that for every single letter of your word, and then a space, next letters for the word, space. And it took an eternity to send text messages. You really only sent them if you had to. It was like, oh God, do I really have to send a text message? It was rare to get anything more than a few words because it just took so much effort to make it happen. So, but you could have little pictures on there, and it worked fine. Probably collectible item now. It's interesting to see advertised. It was only a brand new camera phone. It was $99. That's a good deal. This is section D. It's business. It says La Vista, which is a town in Nebraska. La Vista lures new warehouses. They're talking about Oriental Trading Company, which is quite a famous company. At least here it is. They sold, I don't know if they're still in business, they sold at the time. Lots and lots of kind of junk, classroom stuff, stickers, any kind of tchotchke or gadget or something you could think of, they would have it. There's some Korean recipes the lady made. Looks good. This is an insert. And one of these on the front here, this is an advertisement for a concert coming up, or that was coming up at the time. This is Leonard Skinner. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of Leonard Skinner. families, and they had a very tragic ending. In 1977, their leader, Ronnie Van Zant, guitarist, the band leader, Ronnie Van Zant, was killed in a plane crash back in 1977. And all these years later, in 2004, they come back together, the remaining members, and they put on kind of a tribute or revival concert. They were celebrating their 30 years as a recording act. They have music kind of southern rock. Was the way it was described, usually. Kind of a southern rock. Tickets at the time were $30 plus fees per person. So, that's fun. We have an ad. This is an ad from Nebraska Furniture Mart. They have a few things on sale, looks like. There's a cute set of tables for $199. They're not nesting tables. They're more of there are 3 different tables, but they don't fit inside one another. They're different sizes, but they don't fit. Let's see. Well, they have stereos on sale. Quite a few, actually. There were still cassette tapes, players in the stereo systems at the time. They were just getting into CDs and things like that. MP3. Here's some laptop computers, books, desktop computers, appliances, stove, range, they sometimes call them, washer, dryer, and leather chairs. Looks like they have some other lamps and accessories at the bottom. And factory closeouts. With 18 months interest-free financing. You can get this if you have a Nebraska Furniture Mart credit card and there's no down payment. If you spend $299 or more. So, it's not too much, considering the time. If we could do that today for $299, I think we'd probably jump at the chance. And lastly, just, I guess, take a look at these other leather couches on the back. There's some really nice ones, actually. Now, I'm not always crazy about leather, but some of these are kind of nice. the other ads. Section D. And then we have classified ads, which are so much fun to look through. And I think we should do a video of just going through and reviewing classified ads. They were great ways to advertise your services or sell something, buy something. And I remember I would spend every week I'd just go through the classified ads and see what was out there, what was for sale, what people had going on. A lot of fun. There used to be a section for misconnections, people that somehow wanted to get together and meet, or saw someone on the way to work that they wanted to catch for coffee next time. And you could post things like that in the paper. Of course, a section with comics and crossword and vehicle sales, some entertainment, and a few things on the economy, stock market and such, jobs available, and stock market reporting. It's very good. It's a good newspaper, I think, for the time, it seems. And we have a small comic at the bottom of this page. Sigh, the little person says. The other person is, I don't know, playing with a ball of dust or something. It says, thanks, I needed a little break from reality. And then that person replies, that's what horses do best. And I guess the horse is the real thing, and I don't know. I don't quite get that. The comic is called Non Sequitur. I think that's about it. I hope that you like reading the Omaha World Herald with me, because I enjoyed reading it with you. And if you are interested in having more soft-spoken reading videos like this, please hit the like button and comment below to let me know what you enjoyed and what you would like to see next. We could do the classified ads, that would be nice. We could do newspaper cataloging and sorting, reviewing the dates, putting them in order, that sort of thing, I guess. Or we could find things to cut out and save in a book of some kind. So think about that and let me know. Please, if you would, and if you're interested in subscribing to this channel, you can hit the subscribe button, which is very nearby the thumbs up and like button. So don't overlook that as an opportunity to connect and be connected to the ASMR experiment on YouTube. With that, I will be saying good night, good day, good luck, goodbye, good everything, good rest, good sleep, good to see you. It's good to see you and to hear that you're doing okay. I hope that you will come back and visit this channel again next time. And thank you so much for watching, for subscribing, for commenting, for supporting the ASMR experience and the experiment itself, which is me. I'm Amy, and I am the host of the ASMR experiment. And I will see you, I hope, again next time.